Hey everybody, it's 6:30 and welcome to another David Becker paint along. So everybody seems to be liking this tree and I'm happy you're liking it. The one I did this afternoon I didn't like so much, so we're definitely going to be doing something a little bit better. Know why? Because of green, it's like, you know how much I don't like green, and so I did paint it out, let's just see in a second. But Hey guys, let's go into our beer today. Today we have a O'Fallon Naughty pretzel beer. Now I wish I had a pretzel to have with this beer, but I don't have that, and so we're just gonna pour this, and hopefully it'll come out without the ice because I just opened it up already because I froze it and it almost got too frozen. And let me see, I have to actually put on my glove. Sorry, I almost forgot. And what I did this afternoon, I want this to kind of look more. The reason I picked it, and I really found it, I thought I loved this picture. And so what I wanted to show you is that I want to make it look like a Maxfield Parrish. I love the paintings that he does, and I'm going to show you a couple of images that he had done. And I love the colors that he uses, and I've always loved his work. And when I saw this photo, and I thought I want to paint this, I want to kind of paint like a Maxwell Parrish. Well, if you look at here's what we did this afternoon. Lots of green, and not exactly the way I was thinking, but and I did do a mistake on the people, and so we'll get into that in a little bit. But first, let's see who's here. And actually, hey Jean, Morris, Sue, Evelyn, Dave, and Barbara. Thanks for dropping by, and Don. Hey Don. And so I'm glad you liked the picture, guys. We're going to see if we can do it better. And I'm actually trying to make it look like a Maxwell Parrish, where I'm using really weird colors or off the wall colors that you would not normally see. And me, especially when it comes to green. And so cheers, guys. Here's for this pretzel beer from O'Fallon. And let me see what it tastes like. And it's so hot in here today. It's like, oh, it just jumped right into summer, I swear. It's either raining or cold, and now it's summer again. So cheers, guys. It's not bad, boy. It really has like a very pretzel kind of taste to it. I'm gonna give this maybe a 9. It's not. It's kind of a weird taste. It actually tastes like pretzels. Very weird. All right. So cheers, everybody. Cheers, cheers, cheers. Here we go. Let me just show off my website first. And so, for any time you want to see what I'm doing, here comes my website. And I've had a couple new people. I just did this in Quincy. I did a workshop, and so people want to know how to get to the thing. And so just go to my website, and you'll find all the things that we're painting every Thursday. And so here it is. So anybody's new from last Saturday and Sunday, here's where you go. And then for our supplies, I use my Holbein paints and no masking fluid today. My brushes, and we are using Stonehenge paper. So let's go right into our value study because we gotta get going. So here is what I had done this afternoon, or this is the picture I used. And look at all the greens. And it looks fine that way, but again, getting greens are so hard to work with for artists because we don't get that green in a tube, and so we have to mix it. And it's a lot of yellows, and then there's a lot of gray. And most people, like myself, had used too much vibrant green that doesn't really look like in nature. And this is up here is all the greens and stuff. And so here's the value pattern. You see the background is light, even though there's the trees back here. And you notice I took the tree out back there because that looked like a monster coming out of the ground right here. See, it's like a monster coming out and attacking her, a little octopus monster coming out there. So I just eliminated that, and I made this area light. Now what I did is in Photoshop, because this is what I'm kind of go for. Maxwell, these are Maxfield Parrish paintings, and I just love his colors. I love that they're not exactly what you see out there, but he enhances those, and I really like that. So I took this photo right here in the Photoshop, and I just started messing around with different things. And I can do that because I've been working with Photoshop for my whole life. Ever since it was invented, Photoshop, I've been using it. So I went in here and I just thought, I'm going to give it these colors. I'm going to give these Maxwell Parrish colors. And I'm just going to be really bright with it this time because I'll show you in a second. What I did was just too much like this picture. And it's very green, very yellow, and it's all the same kind of, but not bad. I mean, it was not that bad looking. but the tree. But I just want this Maxfield Parrish look. I just and it's neat to do that. You know, sometimes when you feel like you have a mentor, or if you love a painter, try to use his parts of his style and see what you can do to make it part of your style. It's not gonna You're not gonna do a Maxfield Parrish. You're just gonna do David Becker, who's gonna use some of the colors and see if I can't get kind of the look of that. And it'll never be that what he had done, but you can get kind of close and can have kind of fun with that. All right, and so if you have questions about anything, always let me know. Just ask away, and I'll look up every once in a while to see if I can answer those questions. So here's the tabletop, and so here's what we did this afternoon. And so as you can see, I use my complementary colors of red and green, which, you know, it's fine. It's all fine. I messed up the lady, and it's still even messed up because really in my drawing, you see here, I'm just gonna put the one lady in, but after I got done with this painting, it looked like a coal miner, this big like coal miner hat, and it was just really bad. It was really bad. So I scrubbed it out, and I came back in, and I put it as a couple then, because I ruined the whole paper on the side here. So I thought I'll put a guy next to it, and then I'm gonna put a dog there too. So ended up being a whole couple with a dog underneath the tree. And so that only happened again because I didn't draw it right the first time, and then when I was going fast in class, it just didn't turn out, you know. And she is going to be kind of hard to put in, and you have to make sure your drawing is really good. Again, don't make the hat look like a coal miner's hat, like a really flat top, like round it a little bit, and just I drew it a little bit better this time, so we'll see what we can do with making it a little bit better. All right, so let's get started. And so what do we start with? We all know that we start always with the lights. Thank you, Tina, for reminding everybody to like the button. That's always so nice of you guys, if you like it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my big brush, and we're going to get right into the lights. And what are the lights? The lights are the parts that right here are light. The light behind the tree, like in the back of the tree, is light. So these lights right here are light. And there's parts on the tree that are a little bit lighter. My value pattern is the whole background. Even though it's a middle tone and it's going to be kind of blue, I put both of these up here. This is the green one that I did this afternoon. This is the one I'm going to try to go more for these colors. And I'm going to get more crazy with the colors. And because, again, I want to kind of, you know, what do you call it, manage to see if I can't make it look kind of like Maxfield Parrish. All right. So here we go. We're going to start out with a little bit of yellow. Because he did use yellow and maybe a little bit of orange. And I'm just going to put that right where these leaves are going to be. I didn't wet the surface first because I don't need soft edges. I don't need soft edges right there. So I'm just going to put in like my lights. And I really am not putting in soft edges per se that I need to have wet and soft. I go right into the tree. And I'll put some of this. I'm going to go with a bright red, reddish, purpley, blue, really dark tree. And there's going to be purple in there too. So I'll make the edges a little bit more yellow. And there I can have a soft edge, but I'm just wetting it as I go along. Basically, as I go along, I'm going to wet things. And I'm doing it a little bit different from this afternoon because when I'm using all the one color, I wet the whole thing this afternoon. And I came back, let it dry. But when I'm out here, I don't have time to let it dry, so I'm just going to go right into just doing everything. Getting my lights in there, and putting some of my bright colors in there. This is my dirty, brilliant orange. Let me just tone it down a little bit. And again, ask questions. Thanks, everybody, for liking the picture. I did pull it off of, I think, Pexels.com or Unsplash.com. It just, and I had to get it done fast on Sunday or Monday. I mean, I got back on Monday afternoon from Quincy, Illinois, and so I had to put together my newsletter pretty quickly. And I was hoping I could find something to paint really quickly, and I did. And that was really nice that I did because, you know, sometimes it takes me forever to find good pictures for us to actually do. And also be what I want to lesson. The lesson I have has to be in there too. And the lesson today is just trying to copy a different style of like a Maxfield Parrish. So that's fun. That's fun to do and try to emulate another artist. And but in the picture that I decide, not copying his actual photo or his actual painting. So let's see. I'm also gonna put a little bit of this orange right in her hair right away, since I have it in my brush. Just want to get some of the things like her hand, and I'll get that already done. So it's done this time. So you can see I'm just going in there, getting my light colors, getting them in the background a little bit because there's gonna be little holes in here, and there's a little bit of light in here. And there's so many ways of making foliage. You know, you can spatter, you can use cellophane, you can use what do you call it, a bristle brush, you can use a sponge, like a natural sponge. There's so many different ways you can do that when it comes to making. I just like painting it in and not worry so much about all these little details that you can possibly do. I'm just going to go in there and just make it, paint it like I would just. And like I really like how Maxwell Parrish, what he does, Maxfield, I always call him Maxwell, Maxfield Parrish. I like how he leaves the light and blue. So I'm going to really make this area really blue compared to the yellow, because he does that where he takes and really makes a different, totally different color. Instead of making it light in the same color, just really emphasize the brightness of another color that's really bright. And his blues, oh my gosh. You know, I mean, look at this. Let me just put this back real quickly. Look at this picture right here. I'm going to blow it up here a little bit. And so if you look at that, look at these blues and the shadow and the purples and the oranges and how vibrant they are. And I don't think this is a watercolor, but you know, we can do that. We can try to do that. I mean, if you're using oil, it's probably easier, but so nice. And look at these darks. They're almost black with red in them. Very cool. And so that's kind of what I'm going for. If you look, I can kind of see the same kind of colors. Martin asked if my pigments are semi-opaque. Yes, they are. They're a lot opaque. Like these pinks here and horizon blue, they're very, very opaque. But the way I use them very wet, and then they're not opaque. They're very transparent because I'm using them and I'm floating into the pigment, into the water. And so they don't become that opaque, because again, I'm watering them down, and that's what transparency is that you can see through the pigment. It may be more of a pastel color, but it still works as a transparent color. We just talked about that today in class too, and I've been talking about it a lot lately because of people asking, even this weekend in my workshop in Quincy, they're asking that because everybody looks at my palette and go, oh my God, you got a lot of opaque colors in there. And I do. Yes, I do. But that doesn't mean they have to be used opaquely. Like lavender, I have lavender, which is a very opaque color, but a lot of the artists are using it very transparently. So now I'm going to go in here and get my blue, my Maxwell Parrish blue. And so I'm going to go in there and just get a nice blue. And this is going to be kind of weird, but I'm just going to dab it in certain spots in here. Again, I didn't do it all wet so that I wouldn't get hard edges. So I'm just going to put that back there, have a little bit of light. This is my lights. Again, I'm still working my lights. I'm getting the lights in there. I'm going to find these little holes. And just putting that blue in there. And then, you know, here and there, you're going to see through the tree. And you're going to see the blue sky behind it. Now here, what we're going to do is, she does have a little, I probably should have put masking fluid around there. I'm just going to use white paint with yellow if I get to that point. And so what I'm going to do is now negative paint these leaves. And I'll start on this side. I'm just going to go down. I'm going to make them hard edged. Not too dark though, because I don't want that much contrast. And so it won't look very hard edged, but it's going to look like I'm negative painting these bottom leaves. And then I'm just going to put the blue there. Now that's a little bit kind of bright for me. You know, it's so hard to do like what he does when, you know, it's just so unnatural for me to think, really, I'm going to put that much blue in there. I'm going to put that in the background. But it works for him, so it should work for us, right? So we're going to try it. You know, always try things. I was telling my class this weekend, you got to try different things, because you as an artist want to make your work look like nobody else's. You just want to try things that you're going to like and that you're going to want to do, and that you will do that, so it makes it look like you're painting, you know, and only you're painting. Like when somebody looks at this painting that you had done, they can say right away, like, oh, that's a so-and-so, because I know it, that's the way he paints. That's his style. That's his color scheme. That's his, subject matter. That's what you're aiming for, I think, because that's what all these famous artists do have that we don't have. They have a style. They have something, a style, or a subject matter, a color palette. That's you see that a lot with some of these artists. So that's what we're going to be doing. I'm trying different things, and that's how you get somewhere. You get somewhere by doing different things and not always doing. Yes, when you first start out, you have to kind of do the fundamentals and figure that all out. When you get to a certain point, I was telling my class that you need to then break away from what you do over and over again and become your own artist. Start doing what you want to do, and do a lot of it. I'm really into that lately because I really want my students to get to that point where they're making their own style and they're getting their own name out there. That's what you work for. And in the beginning, yes, you just have to learn how to do fundamentals and do all that stuff. And so I'm going kind of tight here because this is my center of interest. So, oh, look at that, right? My glove. And so I'm just going in here and getting the negative painted leaves. That will also have some dark in there, but I've got to get the outer edge of these leaves. And so I'm negative painting them. And I know it's very odd to put this bright blue right there, but again, if Maxwell Parrish did it, I'm going to try it and see if this works. I do that a lot when I'm painting and I feel like I want to learn something. And as soon as I looked at this picture, I thought, well, right away, it reminded me of a Maxfield Parrish. So I went looking for his work and just to see what I could do that makes it look kind of more like his style. And this afternoon definitely didn't work with just using green like what the picture was, because that's not what he would use. He would use a very bright color. And it didn't end up being in the very beginning. I didn't think about this until actually this afternoon when I started the painting, because I was thinking, you know what, this really looks a lot like a Maxfield Parrish, so why not try it to make it look exactly like his color scheme or his style with the little dots. He does these little beautiful dots, and that's kind of what you see there anyways. Hey everybody, I gotta get something. Boy, it's hot in here. Does it look like I'm sweating? Alright, somebody asked, what blue, Evelyn? It's peacock blue. I use peacock blue, and that's a very, very vibrant, toxic blue. Up here I used ultramarine, but down here I just used a lot of the peacock blue. It's a very vibrant blue. I think if he were still alive, he'd use this peacock blue. All right, and so there's my blue. And that's it. Let me see what happens if I add a little lavender to this blue. I've never done that. Maybe that would be kind of a cool thing. Well, that is kind of cool. Let's put a little bit of the lavender in there. Still, now that's very opaque. The lavender is a little bit opaque, so it's going to kind of cover up some of the underneath part, but not so much. Not too bad. Wet this a little bit and make it all nice and even. And again, to get a soft edge, you just need to wet the surface and let it soften itself. You don't have to, oh, look what happened here. Oh, look at that. Oh, well, that's going to be darker anyway, so let's just scoop that out there real quickly. And this will give me a little bit of that color into this tree anyway, so that's a good thing. Let's just go right in there. And again, these are still my middle tones and lights. This is actually a light. Can you believe that? That is actually a light. Because I consider it the background. And let me just soften this edge right here, because I want that to be the background too. It's the background, and like I always say to all you students, is that the middle ground, or the midtones, like here, those can go either towards the light or the dark of your composition. They don't have to be, they can be either. So I'm going to make this one my light. That's part of my lights. Even though it's a middle tone, I can end it up being part of my light area, because this tree is going to be really dark, and these leaves are going to be really dark, and this ground in the front here, really dark. And I forgot to put some yellow in this area. Let's put that in there right now while it's still wet. Get that nice and I can put a little of that in there, and it'll turn a little green, but that's okay. All right, and so I think I'm finished with my lights. I'm happy when you guys like the picture. I know a lot of times I really you know, because it's much more enjoyable painting and learning if you like the subject matter. So it's always good for you to tell me what you like. Yeah, answer all the questions. All right, so there's my lights. That's all my lights. Now let's go into our big midtones, and this was like big midtone, so I'm kind of already into that in that aspect already too. So I'm basically into my big darks now, my big darks. And so what does that mean, big darks? It means what I'm just saying. The big parts of here that are dark, but actually there's some middle tones in here that I want to get, and so I'm gonna go in there with I think some purple and some red and some orange. I think I'm gonna go with like a really bright orange. And I'm not gonna again wet it first. I'm gonna scumble my brush. And what that means is I'm gonna go in here and just scumble my brush across the paper and gonna get some texture. Get some texture by using the side of my brush. Pretty thick paint, and this is brilliant orange. And these are going to be like the little parts inside that you'll see because there's going to be a lot of more darks in here than this orange. And then I'm just going to go in here because the darks are what then will make this look really vibrant and bright and light, and it'll still work out perfectly fine. And that is going to be my light area when right now it's the darkest and it looks really dark, right? I mean, it looks really dark, but it will turn light. And then let's put some gold. And so the quinacridone gold is a great gold. Look at that gold. Ooh, yeah, that's great. So I'm just going to put gold in there with violet. So I'm going to use some violet and gold. And this will give me a nice brown. And there's a lot of brown and a little bit of lavender. Get my lavender, my favorite color, purple. I'm running out here. Uh-oh. Got to fill in. Oh well, we'll use the one that's next to it, kind of like not quite as purple, but still violety. And actually, that's probably even a better color. So I am gonna like keep my areas, leave those areas that are light behind, leave them alone, and I'm wetting it with a color. So basically, what I'm doing is I'm taking my color, wetting it, and then putting it down. And then it becomes like a wet in the wet. But I'm not doing it as like I wet everything because I want these hard edges up there, and so I wet it as I go along, and I leave these little spots alone so you can see the background. And I probably should have put some blue up in this area, but oh well. Well, we can also put opaques in that too later on if I feel like I didn't get enough of them. Then I just go back in and I just put it in opaquely with gouache. Let's go in here. And this is kind of fun because I can do all different kind of techniques. You decide what kind of technique you want to use to make your leaves. And now this is middle tone. These are not even my darks yet. That's not, yeah, there's a few darks in there, but that's going to dry 20% lighter. And my darks are going to be almost black. And they're going to be purple and blue and black and really dark. And so we're going to go in here. Just was reading your questions and nothing yet. Let's see. Now we got the little leaves coming over here. I like to tap my brush down straight like this just to get some of, and then there's me some gold. Let's get some gold and orange right down into this area. Because this is like this side of the leaves, and this will be like rimlet. Like to be like rim lighting. And then I'd go in a branch in there. And so this is rimlet leaves. So you can put a little bit of yellow, orange, just, and you notice that it's not wet in the wet. I want hard edges, so that's fine. I can put hard edges in there. Now I'm going to put a little darker edge right here. And some of this is in the background, so I don't want to do so much of the dark yet, the dark details, because it's not, this is like a big area of middle tones and darks. And let's get right into our tree, because before I put these leaves on there, I just want to get the branches and stuff going. So basically you're going to do branch by branch, and for that I'm going to use my round brush. I will use my round brush. And I will go in there with a really bright orange and wet it with a really bright orange. And basically wet the whole branch. And then what I do is as I'm wetting it, I will then afterwards go back in and make one side dark and one side light. Now look at back there. I didn't put blue back there. That should be yellow. I'll do that later. Right now I'm working on the trees. Let's go in there with a little bit of orange, the brightest color of the branch, I'm wetting it, and then I'll go back in and get the dark side. And the dark side is really, really dark, so I'm just going to float it right on the edge, really dark. And on the one edge, it's really dark, right? So that will be soft, and it will just definitely go by itself. It'll seep into the water, and it'll just give me a round edge. And then on this side is the leaves, and so that'll be that side. So I'm gonna literally do every branch like that, and that's gonna take a little bit. So let me go really fast here and just go through, get my lightest light, the lightest light of the branch, wet it enough so that I can float pigment in there. I'm just going to go through here really quickly. Boom, boom, boom. Let's get some red. Make that branch, make that branch. Yes. And look at how red those branches are. Isn't that weird? Like you're thinking to yourself, what the heck is he doing? Look at that. Look at Maxwell Parrish. You see this darks he's got. I'm gonna actually use my smaller round brush to use for the dark because I need enough pigment in there with no water. I already have water here, so I'm taking pure purple, maybe a little lavender, and I'm just gonna run it on the right side of this branch so that the right side of the branch and the one side is really dark, and it's just gonna bleed into the other side. And it's just gonna, the soft edge happens by itself. You can add a little bit of red into that. Maybe it's red and purple, so you get a really nice dark. And put these little branches, maybe another little branch. See how the one side is dark and it's just starting to form itself? And then there's this branch that actually is here, and that is actually dark on top. Kind of comes down dark. Dark, dark, dark. This branch is on top. This branch kind of comes together with this branch, and they become very, very dark. And some of these branches are almost pure black, so I'm going to take like a violet, a purple, and then just go in here and just make it dark. I can always make it lighter later too. Lighter later. And then let's see, there's another branch that comes up this way. You can also go with black, with the dark first, and then just wet it as you go along so you can wet the side. So let's try that. Let's try that technique. Uh-oh, wait, I'm all confused here. Which branch is what? So there's this one goes off here. Let's do one we know is going to be there. So this one I know is going to be there. And so see how this one's really dark, but then I'm just going to add water and some color. And just let it float. Once you got water there, then it becomes putting pigment into that water and getting the right value, getting the right color, and letting it float. You can put any color you want back on there too. You can put red, purple, dark blue, because that makes it really dark. And these branches are pretty dark. Like look at this one. This one is like almost black. And that's okay to do this now because this is all considered one big, large, dark area. And then this tree branch goes in the back here. And I'll make that one a little bit with a little bit of blue also. So it kind of blends it almost like the sky is there. Then a little bit of purple here. Comes down, bring that right into that area. I'm just going to go up, a little bit orange. And see, I call this wetting as you go along. Basically, you are actually wetting with pigment while you're going along. So it becomes wet and becomes all wet so that you can flow pigment all over it. So see, I'm just wetting it, and I'm leaving spots alone where I want it to be hard-edged on the right side. That's really dark, right? And so I want to keep that really hard-edged. There's a branch that comes down here, it looks like, in the middle of that branch, and then it kind of missing something here. So what is that branch? Oh, this is that area. So I'm looking at the wrong thing. Okay, here we go. Okay, this is really dark right here. I see, and then it just goes over that way. When you're painting fast like this, you kind of get lost. So you want to have you slow down. You don't have to do it really fast. I'm going to make this one a little bit orange make it bright orange on the left and really dark on the right, and let them float together. They'll float together and make their own soft edges. You don't have to make the soft edge yourself. You don't have to scrub it. You don't have to rub it. It just happens on its own. Put a little bit of orange right on top of this blue, and that'll just float right in there. And you notice how much pigment I'm using? I'm using it very thick so that it stays that dark. the more pigment, the more it's going to stay that value, and definitely that value, and it's definitely that color too. And this tree doesn't seem like it has bark on it, and so I'm just going in there to get the big areas of dark. And then and here it goes up. So there should be a little dark. I'm switching colors a little bit, trying to do a little bit of blue, trying to do a little bit of purple, a little bit of everything, so that it doesn't look totally the same. There's a little bit here and there, and this is that branch. Yeah, this is that branch right there. That comes over dark and kind of goes on this side. Can I ask how you started with watercolor? From drawing, I guess. I can't draw, just bumped into watercolor beginner, but it is beautiful colors, painting the long videos. It sometimes turns out okay. Drawing, yes, drawing is number one thing that you need to do, and I have my students that can't draw, I have them trace. I usually bring this image to the size that you're going to paint it, and then I have them trace it, because you need to have the watercolor, the drawing on. Like, now this tree, it's not that important that it's totally right on, because it's just a tree, and so if you're off with a branch, it's not going to matter really. It's when you're doing faces, or this person, like in the other one, I really screwed it up because I just didn't do it right. The drawing was not that great, and I was going too fast, and so you slow down. I should have made it a little bit better, but it definitely has to be looking good. I mean, the drawing has to be on. If you don't have it on, then all this good painting that you do is kind of for nothing, because it's not going to look great because you don't have a good drawing. So drawing is definitely number one, the most important thing about your painting. And I don't mind if you trace it. You need some way of learning how to make it look good, and learn how to draw, and draw like what you see. And that just takes time, and you have to really work at making sure that you do a lot of sketching, a lot of drawing, and that takes time. And a lot of people don't have time to do all that and still want to paint watercolor. So that's just a little bit of way of doing that, is just trace it. And actually it'll teach you how to draw a little bit by little, because you're taking and you're doing the big areas. You're learning what you need to do for big areas. So it doesn't hurt to even trace. It really does help in the fact that you get a good drawing, which is so important to me. You have to have a good drawing. So it looks like I've got most of my branches in there now. And look at how bright red it is. And so I'm going to put my dark details in there afterwards. I'm going to show you how to put shadows on top of them. And so basically that's where I'm at now, is to do, actually I've got to do this big dark area. So down here, I still got to do my large area of dark. And so that looks kind of violet-y too. I'm going to take violet, a little bit of bluish violet, and I'm going to go down here and really make things dark. Again, I'm looking for that Maxfield Parrish kind of look, where things almost look black, but there's a lot of color that will also help it out. And then he gets a lot of details. And I was talking today also about how there's a lot of hyperrealists nowadays. And the thing that I like about Maxfield Parrish is that it almost looks like it's a fantasy world, very photographic, but it's nothing out there. So it may be very tight, but he made it all up. It's sort of like a made up version, and he puts his own colors in. So it really looks like a painting, and I like it to look more like a painting than I do making it look like a photograph. That's just a whole other thing. It's, again, a personal preference. There's always, there's people, and actually some of those ones, those hyper-realists, boy, some of them are just amazing. The fact that they can do it, because I could never. I couldn't sit there that long and paint a painting that long. I mean, I do one in an hour. I always do one in an hour, and these that I do paint-alongs. But even the ones that I do in my studio where I'm working, I can't work very long on them. I mean, at the most, maybe 3 hours in a sitting. That's the most, and it's a pretty big painting. And then I have to stop and get away from it. And there's a reason I also do 3 paintings at a time. I usually do 3 paintings at a time, so if I get tired of that and it doesn't look right anymore, because if you look at anything for too long, you don't see anything anymore. It's just like, it just gets to where you're not sure what's right or wrong. And so you get away from it, come back to it, and then you can see it a little bit better. So again, look at this. I'm going with this purple now, doing a really bright purple. Kind of a bright purple in here. I'm going to put it right into her. A little bit of a shadow on there. And it's like dappled. It's a little dappled light here. So why not put a little bit of dappled light in there, leaving it really bright in some spots. Little dots here. And then adding a little bit of color in there too. Let it just drip in because it's gonna blend into these darks, right? It's gonna be dappled, but it'll also be lights from up above. You'll put them right in there. And that's after you put the wash down. So they may be opaque colors that look opaque, but when you're dropping them into water, you can put light on top of dark, dark on top of light. It doesn't matter. You're just getting in there and getting some beautiful colors. And I think this tree looks very Maxwell Parrish light. It's very red. I still have to get it darker because he puts some of these things really, really dark. So that's still coming, but I have to wait for it to dry. So while this is drying the big parts, I'm going to go in here and now I'm into my dark details. And my big dark details are going to be definitely the leaves, and I still haven't decided on how I'm going to put them in. Let's see if I have anything kind of. I use cellophane too. One of the Canadian artists showed me how to use cellophane, crumple it up, and then dab down for some of the leaves. And they have the funny brush, but again, I kind of like to just use my brush and then just tap up and down or spatter a little bit. I put it like that. So let's do that now. Or let me put her colors, at least the main colors in her, so that we have that kind of going. So I'm going to try to do the jeans this time. Get a little bit slower. Going to put them in there. And so you see a little bit more of what. See, I went a little bit too fast and I kind of really screwed her up. It just didn't look right. So I had to wipe her out completely. So there we have the legs. And the big area, again, I'm working big area of it. And I gotta make sure that I make the hat not look like a coal miner's hat. You know, a really big, like a prospector. I had a prospector hat on. It just didn't look right. And if you want to know why I started with watercolor other than like oils, or if that's your question, that would be that my mentor was a watercolorist, Irving Shapiro, and I really loved his paintings and how he painted, and I just loved the whole thing about watercolor, and so that's how I got started in watercolor. It's just that, and I found it to be very fast, unmessy, you know, when you can do. And nowadays, I also kind of use the gouache together with it with watercolor, and so I'm kind of making them look like both. I'm going in there and doing everything I possibly do. Now let's get a little bit of this blue. I just noticed. Let me just really quickly get some of that blue up here because it's looking like it's not part of the sky up here, and so I just want to make sure that it looks like it extends on beyond just the bottom here, because it should be up here a little bit and it's part of the sky, so gotta make sure you get a little bit of that in there, here and there. And it can turn to lighter blue as it goes up, that we can do that, make it lighter blue, and then it can be white even, but we need to have a kind of the blue here. And like if you want to do the tree kind of texture back there, just be aware that you don't want to make it too much texture back there because we want to keep the texture for the foreground stuff. We want that to come forward. So what should her color shirt be? Let's make it lavender. Let's make it lavender and leave the edges. Of course, her hair is going to be red. All my ladies in my pictures have red hair. Alright, and there's a little lavender. And a little orange for the hair. Alright. Let the hair go down a little bit. Hopefully it looks a little bit better than the last one. Boy, it was really bad. Alright, let's see how we can put texture in. So I'm going to go in there with a lot of purple, a lot of reddish brown, and let's start over here and just start putting in these little details. But I put a lot down, but then I let the water kind of blend itself together, and because I want a lot of texture, I have to paint it in because I'm not using something like a funny brush or a certain technique that people use to make it look more textury, I guess I should say. So I'm just using my brush to make it look textury. So I'm actually painting in the texture and not using some kind of way that that is like more of a gimmicky way of making texture. It's not gimmicky. It's just that some people make it with this, with like I said, a sponge or a funny brush, which is a rubber band brush that has rubber bands. And somebody wrote, "Did you attend American?" Yes, I did attend the American Academy of Art. Irving Shapiro was my mentor, and he gave me all his classes when he got sick, and became very good friends with him and his wife. His wife took my class, and so I got to know him really well. I mean, he was a really unbelievable guy. And then he passed away, and I did the following year I did a big celebration of his life at the Cultural Center in Chicago. And so yeah, he just was amazing. He gave me so many opportunities, and I couldn't thank him enough. And he was a great artist. I mean, the artist was amazing. He was just taught me so much. And if you were in Chicago and you were a watercolorist, you knew Irving Shapiro, and you painted and took his class at one time or another, like everybody did. So again, look at how I'm doing all these little dark little dots, and very Maxwell Parrish like. If you look at his work, boy, there's a lot of little details. And so this is going to take a little bit more time than I normally do, because normally I would just take a sponge and go boom, and I'm done. But again, I want to make it look more like Maxwell Parrish, so I'm going to try to do what I'm thinking he may have done. And he does it in oil, so I guess I can't do it at all like him because he did it. So this is not, this is direct painting. This is not a glaze. Glazing is when you're putting layer after layer after layer. This is just being more direct and making it very thick. And a lot of water in my brush, but I'm kind of making it thick, and I'm just painting in the texture. Painting in what I feel I want it to look like, which there are different ways of doing that. Again, spattering, but again, I want to make it fine and detailed. So that just means I've got to, you know, maybe take the brush across it, maybe tap it like this there a little bit, and go a little bit faster to get this in. And it is wet because I do have a lot of water in my brush, but I also have a lot of paint in my brush. So it's still, I can put water in there and let it float together. And I also want to put a little bit of other colors into this dark. And so while it's wet, then you place some other colors in there, like a little bit of yellow in there. You know, you can just place them into the water. It doesn't matter if it's light or dark. You can place those colors into the water. Now this is very different from this afternoon, because this afternoon I wasn't going so much to make it look like a Maxwell Parrish. For this evening, I thought to myself, you know, what can I do to make this better? And I told the class, I said, I'm going to try to make it look like another artist's work, because it kind of looks like it anyway, so why not try and see what I can get? And so I find, or so far even, it looks much nicer than what I did this afternoon with the green, because, you know, me and green don't get together very well. We don't get along very well. I just, it's so unnatural sometimes when I'm painting with green. It just doesn't look like very nature. It has that kind of green even available. And I don't have a green on my palette. I mix it, but still, it's hard for me to mix a good green too. And I just don't care that much about it so, to learn how to use more greens. Though I noticed that the greens I do want to learn how to use is like a lime green, and also turquoise. Oh, turquoise is just a beautiful green. So that's what, if I'm going to do anything, I'm going to try to use some turquoise to make it a turquoise green. So let's get a little bit of blue in here into this dark. Let's get a little bit of gold in here in this dark. And you notice that this area here is all really dark, and so I'll add a little water, let it bleed together a little bit, let it get its own soft edges in there, because I don't want everything hard edged. I do want to have some soft floating edges, like especially where it's like together a little bit, and then you can just have the pigment float in there. So I'm just going to tap it, let it float around and do its own little thing. Give it a chance to do its own thing. Look at how dark I'm making this, and this is so hard. And look at, I even get little spider things in there. I don't know if you can tell. So right here, you can see there's little spidery fingers, I call them, and they're just kind of floating in the water. And I just put water in there so that it gets a chance to do those kind of things. And this is still now my detailed dark. So I'm on my final step is detailed darks, getting in there and getting dark details. And I think most beginners, like this weekend, I taught a lot of beginners, and they have a hard time with using enough paint. They just never use enough paint. This is a lot of paint, but it's only one wash, like when I put the dark on. So it doesn't look thick. It's not like a acrylic. It doesn't look anything like that because I'm using a lot of paint, but I'm also using a lot of water on my brush. It's just there's a lot of pigment in this mix. And so when I put it down, it's putting a lot of water and a lot of pigment into that mix right there. And then I also sometimes just put water down. Put a couple of little smaller branches in there. And I'm mixing black, violet, this brown. This is imidazolone brown, which is kind of a purple brown. So that's cool. You know, then you just use that. There's another branch. Let's put some branch in here. Do some more orange. I don't think I have enough orange up here. And yes, it would take a lot faster if I would use a sponge or anything. But again, I like the look of me painting the actual leaf because I know exactly where that leaf is going to be. When I'm using a sponge, a lot of times I don't get a chance to place that dot where I want it to be. Like here, I can then place the dot. I can place the texture exactly where I want that dot to be. And then I can also put water where I want the water to be. I can add some little bit of light in there. Let's put a little blue. And notice I didn't do enough of that around here. I don't mind having a little bit of light blue leaves in there too because it's like it's reflecting from the sky in the distance. So that's always good to do. And you know, people are like, well, you're putting light on top of dark. But as long as it's wet, let it float, it's going to look great. It is going to look great. I'm telling you, it's going to look really great. And so let's put a little bit, let's put some farther back in the distance. I want to put a little bit of this tree. Let me just go sideways here a little bit. I want to kind of form this tree and then put dots here for the leaves that are in front of the wrapped around light of the rim lighting that's on there. So this tree branch, I want to make real dark there. And then, so I look up a lot to see where I think my dark branches are, where my dark leaves are. And there's usually in kind of like areas, like this big area. It's not just like a little dots everywhere. It's not dots. It's like right here, there's a bunch of darks right here. And that considers to be a lot of leaves together so that it all is dark right there. And it kind of goes up and it's dark. And so that becomes an area that's dark. And you can do the whole area together. So it doesn't look like it's piecemeal, a bunch of little dots everywhere. You don't want that either. You don't want dots everywhere, just that are not separate, that are separate all over the place. Though I do like a lot of leaves, and I'm looking at his work, I like how small he makes his little leaves. And there's millions of these little dots, and we're not going to get there completely. We're not going to have it look totally like that, but we're going to get looking pretty close to like a Maxwell Parish. What time do we have? All right, we still have plenty of time. I talk a lot, but only because I want to teach you a lot. And so, again, ask away. I love talking, as you know. So I learned a trick when it comes to trees like this. I learned a trick from John Pike. If you look at his trees, he puts shadows like across to show the roundness of something. So like maybe along the edge, what you can do is you can take and put little shadows, like it goes from here and it goes around, and it shows like that there's a branch that's shadowing against the tree. And I learned that from John Pike. He does a lot of this where he puts these little lines across there, and it looks great, you know. And also he puts in little veins into the little like when the tree is like has little inlets, or like especially for like a bark. But this one doesn't have bark, but it does have like these little lines that go down and kind of separates the tree a little bit and makes it look like it's spinning and twisting and curved. And so I'm gonna get all that in there. Little details. Here I'm gonna put like there's little rocks, and there's also the dark parts underneath the branches or the roots. The roots are showing, right? The roots are above the ground, and so you're seeing it just like a branch, but the branch is on the ground. So you have a really dark that's right underneath the branch. So here's the branch, and so you make it really dark that where it hits the ground. If there's a rock there, you just do the side, leave the top part light, and go underneath here and just do the dark part that's hitting the ground. The part of the root that's hitting the ground, And then it also is underneath there. Boy, this is super bright, isn't it? I don't think I've ever painted to something this bright and this colorful. But you gotta try it. You gotta really try it because I've been trying to do some different things with the entertainment industry, and we're doing a whole series of entertainers. And so I may start doing some of this using these colors, like a maybe do an entertainer, but make more like a Maxfield Parrish kind of look to them. So that's be kind of neat, So maybe we'll see. Little branches going through here. And these little branches are not in the picture, but I'm putting them in because I feel that they need it. Put a little dark there. Any other questions, let me know. Dark there. Getting a couple of shadows going across. Always fun to put the shadows in. I love these little branch shadows. Go across and down. See the little shadows you put in there? And don't put them in by twos. Put them in by threes. Don't ever put anything in either 1, 3, or 5. No 2. It's not always an odd number. Always put odd number shapes in. What do you think? I think we're almost done with it, huh? Now the background is kind of plain, isn't it? So let's maybe do a little bit of Maxfield Parrish looking kind of foliage. And so I'm going to take this greenish blue, take the peacock blue, make it a little bit green, and then I'm just going to start here, and I'm just going to wet it as I go along. I'm going to spatter a little bit, just kind of tap it down and give it a little bit of texture. I just feel it needs something other than just solid. It just seems very solid, and so if I put a little texture in it by spattering it and making it a little bit darker of the same color, but with a little green. This is one of his colors. I think that'll give it a little bit of texture. I don't like going into a part twice a lot of times because I like the softness of that. I'm gonna leave that alone. But over here, I just want to get a little bit darker and get the a really kind of textured look. Maybe there could be, branches or something, or just something happening back here a little bit that is in the blue. And if you want something out of focus, just wet it so it becomes a soft edge. Let's see if that's working. Is this working? And let's see. I want to spatter a little bit. A little bit of spatter never hurt anybody. Well, I got a white shirt on. Maybe it's not a good idea to spatter. But I'm going to go straight down. Little dots it makes. Look at that. Nice little leaves, little dot leaves. Nice and dark. A little textury. Not sure if you can see it that well, but yeah, it becomes dots. Let's do a little bit of that orange, like that. Same thing, orange and gold. And we're going to do that up here. All right. So it just gives it a little more leaves, more. I wanted it to look tiny, so I want a great way of doing that. Yes, I definitely have to turn on air conditioning, but the air conditioning in my thing is too loud, so you would hear nothing but the air conditioner. How do you control water pigment ratio on your brush? I bought is it called sponge? English isn't my other tongue. How do you control water pigment ratio? Well, what you do is you do wet into wet, and then it's the amount of pigment you put on there that you can feel, and then how much how much water do you have on your brush or on your paper too. So sometimes you don't have to put any water on your brush, because if you have a lot of water on your paper, then you don't have to do anything. You just let it bleed. into the water, and that's a good way of practicing and learning how to use your pigment by putting into a wet wash. So take a piece of paper, wet it, and then just put the amount of pigment in there to see how you can, until you can control it in the wet wash. That's what you really want to do. That's a really good way of learning how to control your pigment, is doing it in a wet wash and putting a lot of paint into a wet wash on a piece of paper. So all we have to do left is our little lady here, and so boy, I sure hope I can make it look good this time. Let's see, we're gonna give her a really dark hat, and I gotta get a little bit closer here because I gotta look to see. And let me make her picture a little bit bigger here. Hold on one second. I want to make it a little bit bigger so I can see what she actually looks like. So there's what she looks like, and there's the picture. And so it helps to look at it a little bit closer up. And so right here, I'm going to try to do the same. Get myself in the picture. So we're just going to go. Last time I didn't make the head rounded on top, so let's make that a little bit more round. Oh, not my beard. Don't want to put the brush on my beard. So we're just going to go around here. Give her a nicer hat this time. And it looks like she has a really dark blue hat on. And so we're going to make it a little dark blue. And then it has a little rim lighting on it. So we're going to see how I'm taking my small round brush to get this to look a little bit nicer this time. Bring out the front. And I'm also leaving a little white edge so that it looks more like it's rimlet. And then it looks like it goes right into her hair. And so you almost can't tell the difference with her hair. But since I like redheads, I'm going to put right into the red. And actually, she looks like she has red here. Oh, actually, because I changed the color. So we're going to go here and just going to put the hair in down. I'm going to come down this way. And so now I got some contrast already. And then for the other side, it looks like there's hair. So it can show the side of her face, the front of her face. And then we have the purse. She has a purse on her, so let's make the purse orange. It's nice and orange, so I can pick some of the orange up from the tree into her purse, so that gives me a chance to get some of this orange over here. I gave her a walking stick too, like a little walking, hiking stick. Hiking thing, so I'm going to do that. And then she's got more of a darker, let's make it, should I make it orange? I think I have to make it orange. I think I have to make her top orange. My favorite color, or purple, but purple, there's too much. I think I'm going to go with orange. Let's see. Oh boy, I don't know if I should do that. Let's go with purple. Let's go with purple. She has purplish lavender top on, so let's go with that. And it kind of gets dark right here on the collar. Kind of blends in, and I'm going to go around the strap for her purse. And see, this is details, and so this, you don't have to wet it first. You just go in there, paint it like you're drawing it. This is like you're drawing with a pencil, like a colored pencil. And if you want, you can actually use colored pencil at times and then wet it. If you feel like you really need to, you're having a hard time with your handling your brush, then use a pencil. They make watercolor pencils. You can wet it afterwards to get soft edges. And nobody says that you have to follow any rules to make it like you can never use other mediums in your thing. You can use any medium you want. Any medium that helps you out to make your painting look good, go ahead and use it. Like I said, also if you use a artograph, or if you use a tracing paper or whatever, just go ahead. Get the drawing looking good and do whatever you have to do to make the thing look good. It's more important that you make it all look good than following some rule that somebody put together, which really you have to learn. And so learning is just doing a lot of that. Doing a lot of painting, do a lot of drawing. You just have to do a lot of it. But sometimes it takes too long for you, because then I don't want you to get so frustrated that you're never going to keep on going. So if I can make it easy for something for you, then you can keep on going. And so that's not bad. I'd rather have that. How do you control? Okay, thank you for that. All right, and so I think we're almost there, guys. We're going to see. I'm going to get the picture out of the way in a second. Let me just put this dark over here, and I'll get that big, huge photo away from there. Let's get this a little bit darker. And I'm not going to put shoes on her because you really can't see that. It's down into the dirt here. Then you can put a little darker there. Put a little shadow. Because there's maybe a shadow coming in this way. You can do that. You can put a little bit of that going in this way. Make it a little bit darker in some spots. it probably should also spatter down here a little bit, so the look of spatter is down here too. So, and when you're spattering, just tap. Like I tap one brush against the top of another one. That's a great way of just getting a couple little dots right there. You're not going to spatter too much around you. It just gives you kind of a look of texture. It's just a texture. And I'm not even going to use any white this time. I thought I'd go back in and use some white or some things that are positive, like some yellow. Well, I'm going to show you can do it. All right, so let me get some white and yellow, and this is very opaque. Now this I'm using opaque, I'm using watercolor, but I'm using white, titanium white with yellow. And I'm gonna go in here and do some dots and give me some little dots up here, some leaves that are, little holes. And so this, like you couldn't do this and enter in the TWSA, but I find it to be very rewarding to get some of these dots that you see through the holes in the tree. So don't be afraid of doing this. This is, if you want to get the side of the tree, here I'm going to put the little side of the tree, make it a little bit lighter, like it's rimlet. You can do that. Because nobody says that you can't do this. This is okay. I know that a lot of artists nowadays, especially plein air artists, they're using opaque gouache even on their watercolors, and it's all good. Here I'm going to put some grasses maybe coming up here a little bit. I'm not a big fond person of grass, like putting little grasses in there. But this is kind of like, it just kind of looks neat because there is like this little detail in here. So put little details. And this is opaque. This is definitely opaque. This is not, again, this is like I'm putting it on top. And so it's white with a yellow. And I know many of you would not do this because you've been taught in school never to use white, and so that's fine. You don't have to use it. I just want to show those that you do want to use it how to do it. Just put it right on there. Oh shoot, I got it in the way. Why didn't somebody say that? There we go. So I was doing all this stuff on this side, and then see I put the little yellow in there and a little yellow here and there. Let's put a couple more dots in down here, little dots coming. I mean, I like the dots. I like the yellow dots, and I could put in masking fluid in the beginning. This is just as easy though. Just go in there and get some of these leaves that are in front of that. And I think we're almost done. Oh, we're past already. Oh, sorry. 7:32. Yeah, I just noticed that the picture was over the painting. Sorry about that. Well, we're done here, guys. So here's what you have. There, and we're over the hour mark, and thank you again for watching, guys. So next week I may have to do this in a hotel because I'm heading towards Colorado. I'm going to be going to the plein air expo, the plein air expo, and I'm just going there to paint, and I'm not a teacher there. I'm just going to try it out. I've never been to one of those plein air events, and it's a big one. And I'm gonna go a couple days early because Denver's not too far from Utah, and so I may head up into Utah and see some of the monuments, the arches and monuments. So we're gonna maybe go there and see what we can see. And so let me show you this one this evening, and here's the one from this afternoon. And boy, what a difference a green makes. So there you have two, both pretty decent, not bad. This is more realistic in the fact that it is green and red, and that's a compliment. Here, it's pretty much orange and blue that are compliments, and a little bit of yellow and violet too. But this one's more dramatic, and I tried to make this one look more like a Maxwell Parrish, even though he works in oils and it would be a lot tighter, but it gives you an idea. All right, so until next week, which if I do have something, it's going to be in a hotel room somewhere either in Utah or Denver. And so we'll hopefully get something out of that. And if I don't, I will put the picture up there anyways. And so we'll maybe do it another day besides that. All right. And so if you're in that area, if you are in not next week, the following week, when I'm at Pace in Denver, Colorado, stop by or say hello. All right.